The little book of Sufi Stories with section on Mullah Nasruddin, or a question of the employer. Mullah's diligence did not go unnoticed in high places. His reputation eventually brought him to the attention of the Sultan himself, who asked Mullah to serve as one of his advisors in court. Of course, in those days, such a position could be as precarious as it was beneficial. The process for removal had no appeal, and for the former official, a low survival rate. One day, the cook prepared for the Sultan a particularly tasty eggplant dish, a secret recipe for baba ganoush. The Sultan liked it so much that he ordered the cook to put it on the menu every day for lunch. Eggplants are the tastiest vegetables in the world, enthused the Sultan. Yes, my liege, agreed Nasruddin. You are undoubtedly the tastiest. They are undoubtedly the tastiest. However, the Sultan quickly became tired of the same dish. 5 days later, he had changed his tune. Take this away. I can't stand the taste anymore, he said. I agree, my liege, said Nasruddin. Eggplants are the least tasty vegetables in the world. But only a few days ago, said the Sultan, you agreed that eggplants were the tastiest vegetables in the world. How do you explain that? Easy, said Mullah. I work for the Sultan, not for the eggplants.
That's the politicians.
We're reading Mullah Nasruddin, International Man of Mysticism. The value of good self-esteem. One day, Mullah walked into court wearing a particularly ostentatious, regal-looking turban. The Sultan asked him about it. You know, my liege, said Mullah, this turban cost me 1,000 gold dinars. That's absurd, said another courtier. No turban can be worth that much. You're wrong there, replied Mullah. I paid that much because I knew that only our Sultan would have the keen eye and discriminating taste to be able to recognize that a turban like this of the highest possible quality was really worth 2,000 gold dinars. The Sultan quickly ordered his treasurer to pay Mullah 2,000 gold dinars and promptly settled the turban on his own head. Later, Mullah told the other courtier, maybe I can't estimate the value of turbans, but I can estimate the value of our Sultan's self-esteem.
So he paid for that.
Possible promotion. The Sultan was always looking for clever officials to promote who knew how to save money and appeared doing much for the common people. To him, Mullah seemed to be one of these, so he invited Nasruddin to an audience to talk about his prospects. Mullah entered the throne room and bowed to the Sultan respectfully. My liege, your humble servant is at your service. Mullah began the Sultan. You've done well in my court. I also heard good things about your work as a judge and market inspector. All your supervisors filed reports to say that you were always busy in a very visible way, but at the same time spent a minimum of resources in going about your job. We have several higher positions open that I'd like you to consider. There is, for instance, the supervisor of all mullahs, or the chief accountant who keeps track of the gifts that my retainers give me. There is even assistant under visor, that is, the advisor to the closest advisor to me. With a job like that, who knows how far you could go, or I could give you a whole district to run. What do you say? Do you have anything else, my legay? Asked the mullah. I want to make an informed decision. Very wise, the Sultan replied, and went on for a half hour describing many different positions and their qualifications. Several of them could eventually prove very lucrative. That's it, I think, said the Sultan, exhaling loudly. Which will it be? I'm not really interested in any of those, said Mullah. The one job I'd really like is yours. There doesn't seem to be any qualification, and I would control everyone and have as much wealth as I want. My job, cried the Sultan. What, are you crazy? Mullah scratched his chin for a moment. Maybe, he said. Is that the main qualification? God. Huh. Mullah and the camel seeds. It was with great reluctance that Mullah hastily left his position in civil service. But he had climbed as high as he could go, and after the last audience with the Sultan, well, he wasn't given much of a choice. He headed back to the marketplace. Wistfully, he passed through the donkey dealer section. He had already tried buying and selling donkeys, and he had more or less mastered the occupation. He knew he could always go back to it. However, he was looking for something new, something fresh, something easy and profitable. As he reached a section of the market between the donkeys and the cows, in a sort of no animals land, he passed by the stall of a young man who was calling out, Camel seeds! Get your fresh camel seeds here. Easy to grow, easy money here. Thought Mullah, inspecting a table full of what appeared to be large brown clumps of pieces of straw sticking out of them here and there. They all smelled pungent. He thought he knew something about livestock, but he had never heard of camel seeds. Easy money, though, the man had said. Young man, I'm interested, he said. Can you tell me exactly how they work? How do you grow them? Just like any other seed, of course, replied the man. You take them home, plant them in the ground, and water them. Nothing to it. I guess you aren't very knowledgeable about animals. I was mainly in other livestock, said Lila, embarrassed. I didn't know you could grow camels from seed. Yes, of course, said the young man. Many people don't realize it. That's why they grow so tall. And you don't have all the expense of buying new stock or the stress of delivering baby camels, all that mess. I see, said Miller. All right, how much for 9 of these? The young man quoted a price which seemed high for the strange smelling clumps, but if each one produced a camel, the profit would be huge. So Mullah gave him what amounted to all the money he had with him, and he headed home with the 9 large seeds cradled in his arms. Up close they smelled even more pungent. When Mullah returned home, he went into the grassy field attached to his house and planted them all, spaced evenly. He watered the seeds faithfully each day and waited for them to grow. While he waited, he began to fence in the fields so that when the camels grew, they wouldn't escape. Each day he built another section of fence so that he would feel he was making some progress. As the days went by, not much seemed to be happening. The areas which he had planted the seeds seemed to be somewhat greener, and the grass grew higher, but there was no sign of any camel life. If it's true that a watched pot never boils, then it must also be true that a watched camel seed doesn't grow, thought Mullah. He decided to He decided to take the next day off, go to his old haunt, the local tea house, and enjoy the company of his friends. He had almost finished the fence and was sure that the seeds were well watered. The next day, Mullah left for the tea house after breakfast and enjoyed the whole day there, mostly telling stories about his exploits as a civil servant. A short time before he left, a camel merchant from a village in the neighboring valley brought 9 camels into the town heading for the market, but he decided to stop at the tea house first. He loosely tied the camels outside and went in. The camels, however, were also in need of refreshment and under the influence of the most rebellious of them pulled their heads free and headed off in search of food. Close by they came upon Mullah's field with 9 large tufts of juicy green grass. Perfect. They entered the field and were happily munching away when Mullah returned home and saw them. Praise God, he cried. My camels have grown just as I thought. I was watching them too much. He quickly finished the remaining section of the fence so that the camels couldn't escape, then went into his house, satisfied with the whole day's events. He wasn't home more than an hour when he heard a banging on his door. It was, of course, the camel merchant. Hey, those are my camels. Why do you have them fenced in? Your camels, replied the mullah. My friend, I'm afraid you're mistaken. I grew those camels from seed. I started them maybe a month ago, and today they've finally grown up. Grew them from seed? Don't be absurd, said the camel merchant. An argument ensued. Rather than come to blows, however, both men decided to present their case to the local judge. Mullah had great faith in the judicial system, having been a local judge himself. When he arrived in court, both men presented their stories. The camel merchant offered his case with great lucidity and logic. He was a visitor in town. He had temporarily parked his camels at a tea house, and when he came out, they had been stolen by this crazy man who could only offer an impossible story about having grown them from seed. Mullah knew the local judge because they had once worked together. Your Honor, I purchased camel seeds in the market a month ago or so, and as you know, our merchants only sell honest goods. Then I planted them according to instructions. Today they finally grew into adult camels. Hand on heart, I swear that's exactly what happened. As he said the last sentence, he placed his hand inside his robe over his heart and moved it up and down. Now Mullah's gesture was universally understood in the local Jewishary to mean only one thing. If you rule in my favor, I'll put my hand in my pocket and make it worth your while. This was not lost on the judge. Let me consider for a few moments, he said, and sat pretending to make notes on a piece of paper in front of him. After a suitable pause, he said, having considered all the evidence as well as the variables of circumstance, probability, veracity, and character, and here he paused for effect, I find for Mullah Nasruddin, the camels are his. Disgusted, the camel merchant left town and was never seen again there. The next day, Mullah was at home preparing to go sell his camels, where he heard another knock on his door. It was, yes, the judge. Mullah, said the judge, as you know, I found in your favor yesterday, and you let me believe that there would be some remuneration involved. Remuneration, said the mullah, but bribery is strictly outlawed in our town. Oh, you mean my hand on heart gesture. That was me saying that I was holding a large rock there, and if you don't rule in my favor, I would throw it at you. Sorry, but you misunderstood the signals. Better luck next time. Reading from the Sufi Stories. That's Nasruddin or Hoja under many names.